What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Palantir Technologies and how it looks like that they could have a really great week next week. We're going to go over all of the different pieces of news that have come out about Palantir over the last couple of days and some of the overall market news that has been coming out that could create a massive reversal in the overall market sentiment. So before we get into all of that information, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video, so you get to stay up to date on all of your favorite stocks, learn about a couple of new ones, and see exactly which options I am trading and which strategies I am using to trade them. So coming over to the chart of Palantir, we can see that over the last week, Palantir fell a lot with the overall market. They had one pretty solid green day when we found out that Ark bought an absolutely crazy amount, and then they just continued on their sell-off with the overall market. This is very similar to what we've been seeing with the hyper-growth stocks that we have been talking about on this channel, and nothing I say is financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. These are for educational purposes only, but I think that this dip in Palantir is a very good one to buy. We saw Palantir go on an absolutely massive run earlier in January, and Palantir hasn't been at these low $20 levels since the beginning of January. So this could be an amazing dip to buy if you want to get more shares of Palantir or if you want to initiate a new position. We can also see that there is some very unusual options activity on the chain of Palantir. So coming over to the March 19th, 2021 expiration date, we can see that these $26 strike price contracts have an open interest of about 35,550. And that means that those are the amount of contracts that are being held in people's brokerage accounts at the current time. And the volume for these contracts that were traded on Friday was about 3,700. But when we move down to these $30 strikes, there is almost 60,000 of these contracts being held right now, and we can see that 18,000 of these contracts were bought and sold in one day on Friday. That is absolutely crazy. Options traders are betting in a massive move up in Palantir in the near future. We're also seeing these 32s have an open interest of 40,000, and even these 35s have an open interest of 67,000. So a lot of people are playing call options, thinking that the stock will go up for Palantir for this March 19th expiration date. Now, if we switch over to the puts, we can see that there also is some pretty high open interest and some pretty high volume on some of these contracts, but nothing close to what we are seeing on these calls. So that means that options traders in general have a net bullish opinion on Palantir's share price going through the next couple of weeks. Ark Invest also almost doubled their Palantir position in their Ark K ETF. So coming over here, we can see that on Friday, Ark Invest bought about 2.5 million shares of Palantir in a single day. Now, Palantir wasn't dipping that much. We saw some more very significant dips in Palantir throughout the beginning and middle of last week, and Ark Invest has been buying a lot of Palantir. Before this came out, Ark Invest had actually bought the dip in the amount of over $200 million, which is absolutely crazy. And we can come over here and take a look at exactly how many shares total Ark Invest now holds of Palantir Technologies. So we can see Palantir, and they own a total position size of about 7.7 million shares, putting their total position worth at about $183 million. So Ark Invest has a lot of confidence and conviction in Palantir Technologies for the long term, and when such a successful actively traded fund and company like Ark Invest is buying these dips in these hyper growth stocks such as Palantir, it is a very good sign to the retail investors like us that we can have confidence in Palantir as well. Now, if we come over to this next website, we can track the overall buying behavior of Ark in a pretty general way of shares of Palantir. So this is going to be the combined holdings of Ark Invest in Palantir shares. And we can see that previously to Palantir's earnings announcement, Ark Invest was holding about 2.4 million shares in total. And they were absolutely buying the dip in massive ways. We saw they bought almost 5 million shares in a day, sold off a little bit of their position, and then bought in again with a total position size of about 12.579 million shares of Palantir. This is now a pretty substantial holding in all of Ark Invest ETFs, which in my opinion is a very good sign for this data analytics company going into the future. They keep coming out with new contracts and they keep having really great news coming out about the company. The only thing that is kind of sending the stock lower was a little bit of an investor earnings reaction and the overall market sell-off, as well as a lawsuit against the NHS about their participation in contact with Palantir. So now that we have taken a look at some of the very specific things going on with Palantir and how these different events and catalysts and news pieces could send Palantir going up in the very near future, we need to zoom out a little bit and kind of examine what is going on with the overall market. So a lot of investors and overall economists are getting worried about inflation, and this is causing the 10-year Treasury yield to go up, which is usually not a great sign for equity. So when the bond yields go up, some more investors will take some of their money that they have in equities and put them into bonds because they are safer and are offering a higher yield than was previously available. Now, when enough people go into these bonds, that is when the yields start to go down. There's kind of a cycle of what happens with bond yield pricing and how many people are going into them. But we are also getting some pretty good news on some stimulus news. So coming over here, we can see that the third stimulus check update, House passes a spending bill with $1,400 payments. Here is the latest. So basically what happened was a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, the first major legislation of President Joe Biden's term, passed the U.S. House along party lines on Sunday morning. The legislation includes stimulus checks of $1,400 for individuals making up to $75,000 and $2,800 for couples making up to $150,000 plus $1,400 for each dependent. Now, this bill still has to be passed by the Senate in order for it to come into effect. But the Democrats now control the Senate, and since this bill was brought to the floor by the Democrats, I'd say that this has a pretty good chance of getting passed. Now, we've seen what happens with stimulus in the last couple stimulus bills that have been approved, especially with the first stimulus. The market goes absolutely crazy in the upward direction. So if we can see this stimulus get passed, we're going to see the overall indices start to creep back up and reverse off of their sell-offs that they've had over the last couple of weeks. And since we've seen a massive sell-off in these hyper growth stocks that we have been talking about, we could actually see a massive run-up in these stocks as well, as investors are going to want to put their money back into these stocks if we get some bullishness. So we've seen Palantir sell off a very significant amount over the past week. We've seen Ark Invest massively buy this dip in an absolutely crazy amount. I think their dip buy now is up to $250 million or more. And the reason we've seen Palantir sell off a lot, one of the contributing factors is going to be the insiders selling a lot of shares. So after Palantir reported their earnings, the share lockup period did expire. So a lot of the high-level executives that have not been able to sell some of their equity positions are liquidating a portion of their equity positions in Palantir. Now, when you look at the total positions that these executives have and the high-level employees have in the company, they aren't selling off an absolutely crazy amount of their Palantir position. They still have a lot of shares in the company. They are just taking off some cash to kind of reward themselves for how successful their IPO was and the massive run-up in share price. So I really don't see a massive problem with this sell-off, and I think this is going to create a great dip to buy, which is what we have been seeing. So overall, I think this is going to be a great dip to buy for Palantir. If we get new stimulus, we see the yield start to kind of chill out, we're going to see a massive run-up in Palantir just because this stock is extremely oversold at the current time, and it is fundamentally sound. They are getting new contracts almost every other week, and these contracts are for multi-millions of dollars, and their business model is on a recurring revenue basis. So when Palantir gets a new contract, they're going to be receiving revenue revenue from this contract for years to come, which is why I'm so bullish on Palantir going forward. So that is going to be it for this update on Palantir Technologies. If you guys enjoyed the information that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video, so you get to stay up to date on all of your favorite stocks, learn about a couple of new ones, and see exactly which options I am trading and which strategies I am using to trade them. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.